Okay, and I think we are live. So hi everyone and welcome to my channel. For those new here, my name's Nikki. I'm an author and editor and I post videos here on YouTube about writing, editing, reading and all the other things I love. And it's the latter we're here for today because tomorrow is the end of the month. So it's time to wrap up. Just a quick rundown of what I've been watching and reading during the month. So this one is my TV and film wrap up. So let me get rid of this banner out the way. There we go. So, March has been a fairly busy month for me, just in general, but I've still managed to watch a few things, so I will share those with you. I'm going to start off with things I've watched on YouTube. So, I've been on YouTube a little bit lately watching stuff. First of all, a short movie, a short film from Korea called The Vampire Lives Next Door. The premise of this one, and I've got to be just careful because it is a short piece, it goes for about 20 minutes, so I don't want to say too much that I've just told you the entire plot of the whole thing. So it's basically a vampire who lives in a morgue, and usually when they bring people in, he just torments the bad guys a bit. But this time they bring in this young girl with whom he feels this instant bond, and he sees a way to accomplish something he's wanted to do for a while. So which, as I said that sounds really, really creepy, but it's nothing dodgy or weird or anything. This was an interesting piece. It is very short. It's serious in many ways, and yet there's a slight comedic streak as well to the vampire character. So I don't really want to say too much more because it will spoiler it, but it's on YouTube. It goes for 20 minutes. It's subtitled in both English and I think something Polish, Hungarian, something like that. It's available on there. So do check it out anyway. It's worth having a look at. The other vampire piece I watched on YouTube, also from Korea, is a movie from, I think it's about 7 or 8 years ago, called You Are My Vampire. Now this one, the premise of this one, let me tell you first, is there's a young woman and a young guy moves into her apartment complex. And she notices she only really sees him around at night. He's quite moody, doesn't want to talk to anyone. She finds out he's a scientist and he just wants to be left alone. Then he starts coming to the food place that she works in, and he asks her to prepare meals for him every evening, but without any garlic. So she begins to get this vibe that maybe he's a vampire. Now, this was just a really strange film. The pacing was super slow. And all the way through, we were kind of left going, well, is he a vampire or isn't he? Until quite near the end. I just felt it was a little bit of a miss. It had a lot of promise and there were some good moments and bits that I enjoyed. But overall, just that slow pacing, and you just kind of wondered where it was going as it meandered on. I think if they'd kind of ramped things up a little bit, it would have helped. It's worth looking, if you're a vampire fan, it's worth taking a look at. But it's not going to be a vampire movie that I'd rush back to again and again and again or anything like that. So check it out if you're a huge vampire fanatic, but otherwise this isn't one I'd recommend you rush out for. So other than that, on YouTube, I've been watching quite a few Korean musicals, or at least clips of them. I don't know what it is, right? I got up this morning perfectly fine. I made my husband's lunch, got ready, made the beds, got dressed. No problems at all. And this happens every time I do these live streams. I'm perfectly fine, sit down to do the stream, and suddenly my nose is running, I need to sneeze, my throat's dry. It makes it look like I'm just quite permanently sick every time I do these streams, which isn't the case. I'm actually perfectly healthy, I'm fine, but my nose is just going again, so I'm sorry if I start sneezing or something in the middle. Anyway, back to the Korean musicals. So Korean musicals I've discovered over the last sort of 6 months or so since I've been looking them up on YouTube. They often do, when a new show comes out, either a sitzprobe, which is, for those who don't know, where they sit down with the orchestra just in plain clothes in a studio and run through the songs. And that's sometimes filmed and streamed in advance of the show coming out as a bit of promotion, I assume, on Korean TV, so it makes its way to YouTube. or to Naver TV or Kakao TV, one of the Korean streaming TV channels. And if they don't do the Sitzprobe, they usually do a press call, which is on the stage, full costume, but only with press invited, and there's usually an MC. They don't run the whole show. There's an MC who just introduces the key songs. In any case, though, it's a way you can watch some clips, hear some music from the Korean musicals legitimately without having access to the full DVD releases. So I've been watching quite a few of those. This month I watched Frankenstein, which is a musical I wasn't particularly familiar with. And I watched it because my great love, my sarang, John Don-sok, was in it. So I liked his song, which I'd heard before. Some of the other music, though, I wasn't that fussed about. What other ones did I watch? I just watched just a couple of nights ago, the Sitzprobe for the currently running production of Phantom, the Maury Yeston Phantom, not the Andrew Lloyd Webber one. That was good. Again, I'm not as familiar with the show. I have heard the music in English before, but it's not one I've listened to a lot. And I liked the renditions the singers gave. John Don-sok is in this as well, but he wasn't involved in the Sitzprobe. There's 4 of them playing Phantom in this current production, so they just had 2 of them there for this streaming. And it wasn't my John Don-sok, unfortunately, but never mind. The others did a good job anyway. I particularly like Phantom's songs out of all the music in the show. And the other one I watched, was Hamlet. And this one is a Czech musical, actually, originally, by Janek Ledecki. And I know the Czech musical very well. I've got the DVD, CD. And this was really fascinating because they changed so much. And they gave some of the songs to different characters. And I didn't really like that, I have to say. I didn't have a problem with the show in other ways. I thought the performances were fine. This one was a press call, so it was fully staged in costume. But it just seemed really weird that they'd given songs to different characters and they just didn't sit quite right. I'm not sure why they did that, but who knows? But it was interesting to see anyway, because I'd only ever seen this show in Czech. So to hear it in Korean was good fun. So moving on and getting us back to Netflix, I'm just going to have a quick drink. Hopefully my tea is cool enough and I'm not about to burn my tongue and then I have to go through the rest of the stream with a burnt tongue. No, we're good. Okay, so on Netflix, I watched 6 things this month. Well, I say that. One of them I'd started back in January, but it was a long series, so it took me a while to get through it. So essentially 5 this month plus one I just finished off. I'm going to start with that one I finished off first. In fact, I'm going to start with the anime, because I watched 3 of the ones I watched were anime from Japan. So the first of these was the one I've been watching over quite a few weeks, which is Fairy Tail. This is, I understand Fairy Tail goes for hundreds and hundreds of episodes, but the first 50-ish, was it 48, 50, I think, were on Netflix. So that's what I've watched. Look, I enjoyed the story. It's kind of a bit goofy and quirky. For those who don't know it, it's set in a world where there are practitioners of magic and they work in guilds, and they can, as part of these guilds, accept jobs for which they'll get paid using their magic. And one of these guilds, one of the top guilds, is Fairy Tail, and we meet our heroine, Lucy, who is keen to join the guild, and she's a celestial practitioner, so she has keys which allow her to access these celestial beings that can help her, a different being for each key. So she joins the guild, and obviously there's lots of adventures along the way, and we discover the truth of her background and various things. So it's a bit of an action adventure kind of thing, sometimes with just a short action of the episode, or sometimes they run over a few episodes, plus there's the main arc that's continuing throughout. I kind of felt the animation was so-so in this one. As I said, I liked the story, the characters. It's one you can just kind of sit back and watch and do some other stuff. It's just a bit silly. You don't have to sit there glued to the screen. And I'm able to pick out enough Japanese now that if I look away for a few seconds, I can keep up with what's going on just about. So it's good fun. If you enjoy those kind of quirky adventure fantasy stories, it's worth checking out. Next, I'm going to talk about, after I blow my nose, sorry, I told you this was going to happen. Sorry all, I'm back for however long. The next one I watched was B, the beginning, Succession. So this is series 2 of B, which is a Netflix original. This one, going back to the beginning, we've got these guys or these characters who were taken as children, and they've got these special powers, and they were kind of brought up in this hidden institute. And this all played out in season 1. Season 2, there's a kind of splinter groups between these people now, and one of them is wanting to kidnap the king, and there's this sort of political storyline going on in the background. I kind of struggled with this, I have to say. The first one, it wasn't my favourite anime ever, but I thought it was okay, which is why I decided to continue and watch the second one. However, I just never really got deeply into it. I kind of had it playing in the background, but I'd get distracted and do other things. I was still able to keep up with what was happening, but it just didn't grip me. And I have to say, if they carried on and did a third season, I don't think I'd rush to watch it this time. Because for me, this second season, there was just no excitement. It didn't engage my interest in the way the first one did. So if you watched the first one and you enjoyed that a lot, you probably want to carry on and just have a look. But if you're new to it, you definitely don't want to start right back at number 1 and then decide if you're going to carry on or not. But it was a bit lackluster for me. And so the final anime I watched for this month was Demon Slayer, which has just come up on Netflix as well. So this is season 1 of Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba. I loved this. I thought this was absolutely awesome. My husband was sitting there when I put the first episodes on, and he got caught up in it too, so I had to watch it with him. Everything about this show is great. I will say I had read the first volume of the manga because I got it on NetGalley as a review copy, and I'd liked that. So I figured I would like the show. The story's brilliant. So for those who don't know it, if that's possible, because even though I hadn't seen it, I knew the story because it's so much out there. But we have our main character, Tanjiro, who is a young guy. He comes from a poorish family, and he goes off into the town to sell coal. And because the weather's bad, he stays in the town overnight before returning. However, he returns to find his entire family have been slaughtered by demons, except for one of his sisters, who is still alive, but who he discovers has been turned into a demon. And he becomes a demon slayer. He goes through all the training, and his aim is to find a way to turn his sister, Nezuko, back into a human. So that is the basic premise of Demon Slayer. And it's a great story idea. The characters are brilliant. And actually, this anime is very close to the manga in terms of how it's drawn as well. The style of the animation sits really well against the manga. And it is really beautifully animated. I talked about the slightly lackluster animation of Fairy Tail, but this is absolutely on point. It looks brilliant throughout. You never kind of think, oh, that guy's hand looks a bit weird there or anything. It's really well done. Some great cinematographic tricks of zooming through forests, visuals and things like that. It's just beautiful to watch. We really loved it. My husband got into it too, as I said. The movie is showing here at the moment, but we're just so busy at the moment. I'm not sure we'll get around to going to the cinema, but when the DVD comes out or if it comes up on Netflix, we will definitely watch it. I'm interested to see what will happen next. So it's actually made me want to continue reading the manga as well. So I believe they're doing a box set later this year, towards the end of the year, because the manga has actually finished. So I think I will probably try and get that and read the rest. So moving away from anime now, And back to Korean drama. You know, I haven't gone the whole month without watching Korean drama. So I've actually watched 3 Korean dramas on Netflix, which I'll talk about first, and then 1 I watched on DVD. So the first one, Beauty Inside. Now, this is interesting because I'd actually watched a film which is based on roughly the same premise, a Korean movie as well. And I think I talked about that. I can't remember if it was earlier this year or the end of last year, but not that long ago I watched this. So the premise is that we have the main character who in the film is a man, in the series is a girl, and they change appearance. So they changed it a little bit in the TV series. So in the film, the guy changed his appearance every time he fell asleep or lost consciousness. So he never looked like the same person since he was a teenager. Every day he'd be someone else. In the TV series, the main character is an actress, and she changes, but she just changes 1 week every month, and it's fairly regular, so she can kind of plan her schedule around it. But occasionally it catches out unawares, and like, for instance, at the beginning of the show, we meet her in an award ceremony and she's about to accept an award, but suddenly she feels that she's about to change and she has to dash off in a Cinderella leaving her shoe on the stair kind of moment. So that's the premise, and she is a model for an airline company that is run by a young gerbil heir, and he has his own problems. That he was in an accident a number of years ago, and since then he's developed face blindness, which he's trying to hide from all the shareholders and board members of the company. So the two of these end up coming together, and that's the romantic pairing for the film, or for the series, sorry. This was good. It took me a little while to get into this one. I think it didn't help that for the first few episodes I was comparing it to what they did in the film. So I had kind of that going on, well, I liked that better in the film, but probably by about episode 4 or 5 out of 16, I started to get into it. And overall, it was enjoyable. It's not one that I would rush to rewatch or that I'd want to buy on DVD. It's not one of my absolute favourites, but I did enjoy it. And if you like kind of romantic Korean dramas with just a little bit of a fantasy quirk, then this is one that you'll probably enjoy. The next one I watched is a Netflix original called Man to Man. And it's the premise of this one is there's a secret agent and he's been told to go undercover, and his undercover role is as the bodyguard to a very narcissistic actor, and which causes him many problems in terms of carrying out his mission. And I probably can't say too much more than that without spoiling. The actor's manager is the female lead, and that's where the romance element comes in this one, because there's always a bit of romance somewhere. The actor's name has completely just gone out of my mind, but the actor playing the actor, if that makes sense, the actor playing the actor, I've seen in a lot of things. He was in Rule. He was in a film in which he played the bad guy, and in fact, I've always seen him playing bad guys in everything. And in this role, he is narcissistic, but he's not a bad person overall, and he's quite comedic and funny, which was something different for me. And if you bear with me 2 secs, because I just need to look up his name, because it's going to bother me so much if I don't find it and tell you. So let me just look him up. Bum, bum, bum. I'm going to find him. Okay. Park Sung-won. Park Sung-won is his name. So I've enjoyed him in everything I've seen him in. So I'm just going to check the other thing that I saw him in. So yeah, it was Rugal I saw him in. Oh, The Great Battle. That's the one where he played a Chinese general. And I enjoyed that. So Rugal. Oh, I see. He's in Crash Landing on YouTube, but I haven't seen. That's only a cameo. I haven't watched that one yet. Oh, he was also in Remember. That's the other one I watched with him in, where he was a lawyer who was a little bit. He worked with the mafia, and he was at least at the beginning, he was a bit of a sleazy character. But I really enjoy his performances, and he was great in this. All the acting was good, but he really stands out, and I really enjoyed his performance. This one again, though, like The Beauty Inside, it did take me a couple of episodes to get into it. It was probably, again, around episode 4-ish out of the 16 that I started to get more deeply involved in the characters and what was going on. But I find that with a lot of Netflix series, though, sometimes the first couple of episodes are a bit slow before it really picks up and gets going. So if you give this one a chance, just give it a few episodes to get into it. By the end, I did enjoy it. My husband was sort of making fun of him and his James Bond moments sometimes. And yes, it is a little bit far-fetched here and there, but so is James Bond. Let's face it, the James Bond movies are not particularly realistic. It's a similar thing. You know, he's a secret agent and he can do cool stuff and make MacGyver-like devices and various things. So check it out. If you like that kind of spy action thriller with a bit of a romance twinge and a little bit of comedy as well, then this is one you'll probably like. So the last one that I watched on Netflix was 100 Days My Prince. So this is Chosen era historical romance. So this story is, as usual, the Crown Prince is beset by troubles from scheming ministers, because that's always the story in these Chosen era ones. And he is being attacked by the ministers because he is refusing to consummate his marriage to the Queen because of stuff that's happened in the past that I won't spoiler at the moment. But so he's told to get married. He's told you have to consummate the wedding. And he's like, why should this all be on me? It's, you know, I'm not the one who has to fix the drought. All the people in the country have to be involved. So he makes a decree that everyone who's single over the age of 20, I think it is, in the country must get married. So then he goes off to attend the rain ceremony and gets attacked on the way. And he's found by a peasant man who nurses him back to health, but he's lost his memory. It turns out that the peasant man has an adopted daughter who is one of the ones who must get married. And she's got no one to marry. She doesn't want to get married. And she's being forced to become the concubine of this horrible old man or be flogged. So she's being flogged, and her adopted father comes in with this amnesiac guy and claims that he is her fiancé and gets them married to save her. So through the course of the story, we have the sort of quirky relationship development between these two characters, and the woman has a secret of her own as well. And he's also trying to recover his memory. And in the background, all the machinations are continuing at the court, where they think the Crown Prince is dead. So that's the basic premise of the story. There's a lot of comedy, but as with all these Korean shows, there's also a lot of drama and emotion as well. I did shed a few tears along the way at different times in the story. This was really enjoyable. Look, I got into this one fairly quickly. I can't remember. Again, I'm terrible with the names of the Korean actors, apart from Lee Soo-hyuk, my favourite. But the guy playing the Crown Prince, he was just hilarious, and I can't replicate it, but he had this way of going, aha, I feel very uneasy, which was like his little catchphrase through it. And every time he did that, it was just hilarious. It probably sounds weird when I say it like that, but you'd have to watch it to get into the mood of it. But this was really great fun, and I enjoyed it, and I recommend it if you like romantic comedies, historical romantic comedies, but with a bit of emotion and drama going on as well. So that brings me to the last one. It's been quite a long one this month, hasn't it? I've just noticed we're at 24 minutes already. The last one I watched this month was a DVD that I bought. I've been waiting for a year for this show to come on Netflix, and it hasn't come. So I decided to buy the DVD because it stars my beloved Lee Soo-hyuk. So Lee Soo-hyuk is... Let me just get rid of that. There we go. This is a show in which we're talking about past lives, as you might guess from the Born Again title. So we have a storyline that plays out in the 80s and a storyline that plays out in the present. So in the 80s, Lee Soo-hyuk's character was a policeman. He was getting married to a young woman who worked in a bookstore who had a weak heart. And she volunteered at her local church, where she met this young man who was troubled. He'd had a difficult upbringing, and she encouraged him to read, to pursue something in his life, and he fell in love with her, even though she was with this policeman. I'm just wondering, I can't say too much more without a spoiler, but something happened that this troubled young man became framed for a crime he didn't commit, and it led to a violent confrontation in which all of them end up dying. So they're then born again, as the title said, in the current era, where suddenly they end up just by chance coming together again, and gradually, one at a time, they're regaining their memories of their previous life. And they find themselves in a slightly similar situation in this era. Instead of being a policeman, Lee Soo-hyuk's character is a prosecutor, for example, this time. So, yeah, I can't really say too much more. I don't want to speak any spoilers, but I enjoyed this. I know you're going to say, of course you did, because Lee Soo-hyuk was in it, and he was in a lot of scenes, and he looked beautiful. So obviously there is that going for it. But I did enjoy the story. There were one or two moments when I thought it became a little bit complicated, but it did kind of unravel itself by the end. So if you like kind of quirky timeline dramas, there's a lot of action thriller elements in this as well, because there's a serial killing going on in both timelines. So if that sounds like your sort of thing, a bit of a crime drama with romance and reincarnation, then check out Born Again. But it is hard to track it down unless you buy the DVD. So that was my TV and film wrap up for March. I think that's all the ones I've got to share. I'm watching a few things at the moment. I've just started another Korean series on Netflix. I'm also halfway through on YouTube Word of Honor, which is a Chinese boy love fantasy wuxia drama. They're releasing 3 episodes a week of that, so I don't think I'll be telling you about that one until about May when I finish it. But I will carry on watching that one over the next few weeks anyway. I will end there for now. I'll be back with my book wrap up for the month in probably give me 15 minutes or so to get it all set up and get ready. And I will see you again then, I hope. If you enjoyed this movie and film wrap up, or movie and TV wrap up, join me again at the end of April when I'll talk about what I've been watching then. I will see you all again very soon. Bye for now, everyone.